So, I had to sleep on this one. Pet Sematary is obviously a adaptation of Stephen King's novel with the same name. Also, kind of technically a remake. It was also adapted previously in 1989 as a film with Dale Midkiff and Nice Crosby and Fred Gwynne. It's just me for this one, by the way. No Christopher. He's off doing some kind of show or something. But yeah, I had to sleep on this one because it's an interesting adaptation. In a few different ways. And I think I really like it. I think I'll really like it. No, I do really like it. It's got problems, as you know, all adaptations do. It's not shy about slashing and burning what it doesn't need for the version of the story it wants to tell. This movie's something like an hour and 40 minutes, so it's quite short for an adaptation of a Stephen King novel. His novels are famously large, voluminous, and wordy, and crammed with side characters and subplots, and so much of that has just been absolutely just slashed out, thrown away. Matt Greenberg and Jeff Buhler did the adaptation, and it is it's lean and it's mean, and I think that works both for and against it. Pet Sematary is already a fairly bleak Stephen King story, and this one takes it even further. Makes some changes which a lot of the trailers have given away. That's kind of the downside of modern movie marketing, and the downside of this movie is a lot of the interesting stuff that it's doing with the story, a story that people are already familiar with from the novel and the original movie. A lot of the stuff that it's changing from that has kind of been given away by the trailers. We've been here before. We've been down that road before. And so some of the impact is lessened of that stuff, but it's still really effective. One thing I will say about its sort of sparseness as an adaptation is certainly early on it can feel, you get a bit of whiplash almost, because it moves along so quickly that you don't really get time to breathe in a way, and the characterizations don't quite have room to sit. And it's got a great cast. Jason Clarke and Amy Semitt's are great as the parents, the Creeds, and their kids. Jesse Lawrence playing Ellie, their daughter, and Hugo and Lucas Louvet. I think I'm pronouncing that right. A pair of twins who play the toddler Gage. The family works. The family feels nice, which is important because, of course, it is about the dissolution of the family through tragedy. And, of course, you've got John Lithgow as their neighbour Judd. He's a very different feel for that character. If you've seen the 89 adaptation, you'll know Fred Gwynne's sort of avuncular, charming, sort of slightly odd Judd. Lithgow's is spikier and a little less approachable, but still, I mean, it's John Lithgow. What more do you want? He's great in this. But the sort of lean, bare nature of the script sort of takes away some of that, some of the compelling and sort of comfortable nature of the relationship. It's an uncomfortable film. No one's quite comfortable with anyone else, and you don't really see much of them being comfortable, so it almost doesn't have anywhere to go when things start going wrong, because everyone's sort of on edge already. But it's interesting in that it takes the basic premise of the novel. It's a graveyard that can resurrect things, but they come back wrong, and just cuts everything away that it doesn't need, flips a couple of things, and goes off at its own tangent. And in that, it's actually really interesting. It's, like I say, it's lean and it's mean. It's a nasty little horror story, not in a bad way. Not in the vein of something like, it's not mean spirited. It's mischievous. It plays on your knowledge of the original story, and it plays on your knowledge of the previous adaptation, and subverts things that you expect from those gleefully. That's quite fun. As I say, my main problem with it is it moves a little too fast, particularly at the beginning, so you don't get time to sort of live in this world before it all goes wrong. It opens with a sort of flash forward, which they never really pay off, which is weird, because that doesn't sort of have any bearing on what happens. Like they could have just opened it. They could have just opened it more traditionally, but it's my quibbles with this movie are minor. It's a really effective horror movie, creepy. It's cold. It's a cold film, which is appropriate. It's mostly set in autumn, and it's there's a warmth, as I say, to the novel and to the previous adaptation in the relationships between the Creeds and Judd, which is not, as I say, not as prominent here. Doesn't have as much time to develop it. You don't see as much of it on screen, and I don't want to say too much about what they've changed, because, as I say, the trailers was already spoiled a lot of it, and it's interesting. It was interesting for me to go in there with my preconceived notions of what the story would be based on knowledge of the novel and the previous adaptation, and have those ideas subverted. That was really effective and interesting. But as I say, yeah, it's a colder movie, and the script and the images reflect that. The whole thing's got this sort of blue haze over it, and it's almost dreamlike. It's a really effective horror movie, and I like it a lot. Just don't go in expecting to see a lot of the stuff that you might have liked about the previous adaptation or the novel again, which is good. Otherwise, why bother adapting it again, other than just doing it with a different cast and updated effects? As I say, it's got great performances, great child performances, which is really important in a film about children. It's worth your time. It's a really good horror movie. With this year's off to a strong start for horror with Us and this version of Pet Sematary. You might find it a little too cold, a little too mechanical in its construction. I feel like there's probably a good 20 minutes of this on the cutting room floor. Whether we'll see that in some form, I don't know. But I don't always say this. I could have bared for it to be a little longer, a little more fleshed out. But as I say, it's like a shark of a film. It's lean and it's fast and it's nasty and it knows it's going to come and get you, and it just comes and gets you. It doesn't mess around, and that's refreshing, I suppose. Although I do like I like my stories with a little more breathing room. But that's a personal thing. This is well worth your time. Go check it out. I'm going to be talking about it. I don't know if Chris is going to be able to see it, but we'll be talking about it on the next podcast, along with this weekend's other big release, Shazam, which I'll be seeing later on today and posting a review of that either later today or early tomorrow. So we're going to be delving into both of those movies on the next podcast, which will be out the Friday after this is posted. So send us in tweets at BigDamnCast on Twitter. Send us in emails, bigdamcontact@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of either of those movies, this or Shazam, which I'll be reviewing it later, as I said. And we'll get into it on the next podcast. And we will see you. We won't see you, but you'll hear us. You'll hear us then. And I'll see you a bit later for a review of Shazam. So, yeah. Pet Sematary. Pretty damn good. That's all I've got. What more do you want? What can I tell you?